Good evening, everyone. Let me start by saying, may the 4th be with you, since it is May 4th. Welcome to Always Choose Adventures, How to Climb a 14er presentation. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Kevin Donovan. I'm heading up the mountaineering programs for Always Choose Adventures. I am a lifetime member of the Colorado Mountain Club, a member of the CMC's Boulder Group Board of Directors, and their director of their ice climbing school. I've been a member of the American Alpine Club for over 20 years. I'm also a professional member of the American Mountain Guide Association and a certified climbing wall instructor and an apprentice alpine guide. I have summited all of Colorado's 14ers, completing them in 2007 before relocating to Colorado in 2008. And I also guide for Sherpa Mountain Adventures on 6,000 meter peaks in the Himalayas. So let's start off by some fun Colorado mountain facts. I won't read these all off. I think it's pretty much self-evident what they are. We all have heard there's 54 and a 58 list. This number is probably close to being accurate about the number of people that have summited all the 14ers. The second highest peak in the continental United States is in Colorado. That would be Mount Elbert. Only 6 other states in the lower 48 have peaks over 13,000. So we're very privileged to be one of those states that has peaks over 13,000. And yes, there's 637 of them, including the 14ers. So if you want to know why we get a lot of people here, Pikes Peak, 400,000 plus people visit that annually, most of them by car and by train. And since they're putting a new summit center up there, those numbers will probably increase, especially this year, because there's a pent-up demand. The railroad was closed last year and the road was not as accessible as it was in previous years. So Mount Evans has the highest paved road in North America. Colorado has 16 named glaciers, and the St. Mary's Glacier is not one of them. The St. Mary's Glacier is actually a permanent snowfield. If you've ever seen the sign, it's in quotations. And probably one of the most important things is we have more microbreweries than per capita than any other state. So what does it take to climb a 14er? These are the topics that we're going to be covering. So please hold your questions to the end or put them in chat, and Chantel will make notes of them and we will get to them. Even if we run past the time allotted for the presentation, I'll stay around, and also I'll provide my email at the end of the presentation if you have further questions. So this is just a quick rundown of the topics we'll be covering. Guidelines, clothing system, gear, and actually more gear, 2 pages on gear, food and hydration, which is very important. What are hazards that we might get into? We'll talk about altitude sickness, obviously weather, a little bit on fitness and preparation, and then we'll cover some guidebooks and resources in schools at the end. So hopefully you'll have some other places to get some other information. And then of course we'll have times for questions. So guidelines, really simple. First rule of climbing, pay attention to the weather. Forecast, that is. Second rule of climbing, ignore the weather forecast. Third rule of climbing, actually pay attention to the weather. So that's one of the things that I always tell people is, look at the weather. We'll talk about this a little bit more in depth. Leave early. I say an hour to 30 minutes before sunrise. The sweet spot for me is around 45 minutes. What you'll find is if you go up that early, you'll be one of the few people that's out, and you'll probably have a little bit better experience than if you wait 30 minutes after sunrise, when the vast majority of people head up to the mountains. Get off the summit by noon. So June, July, and August typically have afternoon thunderstorms that develop in the mountains. So weather may dictate. I've seen them come up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so go back to those rule number 3, pay attention to the weather. Even though the forecast didn't say, the mountains tend to make their own weather. Be prepared to turn around. This is one of these things that people tend to get it in their mind that they get summit fever. And it happens on all mountains. It happens in Colorado. You've made all these plans. You've got all these expectations to go out there and be ready to turn around. The weather conditions may not dictate it. People in your party may not be feeling well. So be ready to turn around. It took me 4 times to climb Long's Peak. So weather was a factor in all 3 times, and then finally made it up on the 4th attempt. Don't separate from your party. Guys, stick together. This is really important. And generally, don't go alone. Now, there's a caveat to that. If you're on Bierstadt on a Saturday, or any of the other Grays and Torreys, any of these other 14ers in the Front Range, you're going to be up there with 500 of your closest friends. So they're going to be crowded. It kind of begs the rules, but if you're out in the San Juans, in some of these remote areas, going on alone is not a good idea. Leave no trace. We talked about how many people get on the mountains, and you've got to pay attention to the leave no trace ethics. It's out there on the internet. Is basically plan ahead and prepare. Travel on durable surfaces. It's also travel and camp on durable surfaces, but on the 14ers, we want to stay on the trails, dispose the waste property, leave what you find except for trash. If you find a piece of trash, feel free to pick it up, put it in your pack and pack it out with you. Sometimes it's just people's carelessness. Sometimes it might be something that blew out of their pack. Pick it up every once in a while. You might even find some money. So this is really important when you consider how many people will climb a 14er this year. There's an estimate that 300,000 people will get out on the 14ers. It's a tremendous amount. And the vast majority of them are going to be in the Front Range, in the ones that are most accessible from the Denver area. There's pent up demand from people being stuck inside from COVID, and you're going to see a lot of that. Plus, Quandary, close to 40,000 people. It's considered the busiest one. So expect to go, if you're going and you want to go on these and have a little bit better experience, maybe try to go during the week. Even Fridays get pretty crowded. I typically try to go on a Friday if I can. I tend to avoid Saturdays and Sundays. And weekdays are probably the best, especially if you go on a Monday, a non-holiday Monday. You probably hear it. I've got a couple people say check their sound settings. It's going. I just want to make sure if somebody can help that one person out who's having trouble with sound, that'd be great. In addition, if you take a summit sign, don't leave it. Take it home with you. If you see one that somebody has left, what happens is they get left up there, they get rained on, and they just turn into trash on the summits. Alan Arnett and Jim Davidson went out one day and they picked up about 35 of these things. I think it was on Grays and Torreys. If you don't know who they are, they're local climbers, both Everest summiters. Alan Arnett, K2 summiter. So, don't leave the summit sign. And back to the same thing, travel on designated trails. The Colorado 14ers Initiative and the Fields Service Institute, the Colorado Field Institute does a lot of work. Field Institute does most of their works down in the Sangre de Cristos, and the 14ers Initiative works on all these 14ers, and they do put those trails in for a reason. It's to mitigate erosion. And so we want to stick to those trails and not go off route. Obviously, if you're on snow, that's a durable surface. Maybe there's no trail. And then leash your dog and clean up after your dog if you're taking a dog. I see a lot of times there's a lot of little green doggy bags left on the side of the trail and they never get picked up. They'll be there forever. And, better yet, leave your dog at home. And the reason for this is sometimes they might react differently to other dogs. They're going to react differently to wildlife and maybe to the crowds of people that are on the mountain. And then again, tell somebody when you're going and when you're going to return. Even if you're in a group, let somebody know when you expect to be back so that they know if there's a problem, say, hey, we haven't heard from this person and it's 9 o'clock at night. Maybe there's an issue. Maybe you're out with somebody and they're having a problem and you need assistance. So tell somebody where you're going. It's really important to do that. And of course, have fun. So clothing is the next thing. A clothing system is really good. First rules, 1, 2, 3. No cotton, no cotton, no cotton. It's also referred to as death rag or death cloth, because if it gets wet, it will not dry out. Wet cotton can lead to hypothermia in 50-degree weather. And oftentimes people that wear a lot of cotton are referred to as cottoneers. You don't want to be a cottoneer. And as one of my friends referred to them as cotton-clad lightning rods. So dress in layers. And when I say what's important with dressing in layers is when you get ready to start, don't start with your heavy down jacket on, because you're going to get hot and you're going to start to sweat. And when you take it off, you're going to get cold. So that's one of the things that you want to think about is delayer just before you start. Really important because, it's like, oh, I'm cold. And then you start going, you get hot. Take your rain gear with you. So one of the things nice about rain gear, it can act as a layer to protect you from the wind and falling temps. So if you've got your jackets and everything else, your warm jacket or your fleece with you, you can put that on. And the rain gear will actually act as a windshield against just wind and falling temperatures. So it becomes part of your layering system. And then if it starts to rain, you've got protection from the rain. Fleece vest is a nice thing to have. It's not necessary. I tell people sometimes you'll find me out. I'll have on a short sleeve shirt, a pair of gloves, and a fleece vest because I want to keep my core warm. And when I stop, I'm going to throw my warm jacket on. The other thing that's really important is gloves. A couple reasons. You might have to, protect your hands from rocks or even some of the stickers that you find on the mountain if you put your hand down. And what I say is 2 pairs, one midweight, one lightweight, and then try the lightweight on and then try to put the midweight over them. So what that does is that creates a system that will also help keep your hands warm. And if need be, throw a set of chemical hand warmers in your first aid kit. A warm hat or a buff, a beanie. I say a beanie and a buff because the buff comes in handy. A spare pair of socks is always good in your bag. A baseball cap or a brimmed hat that's synthetic. I think that's really important. And sunglasses, obviously, especially in Colorado. And one of the things that's interesting is you can find sunglasses like Tafasi or Smith, and even some off brands are better than none, but they'll have 3 lenses in there. So you might have an amber lens, a dark lens, and a clear lens. And I can tell you, I can't count the times that when I first started doing this, I would go out and it'd be before dark and I'd end up getting a limb or a stick or something in the face. And then I started wearing clear sunglasses early in the morning and then switching out the lenses later on. And if it's going to be windy or, we'll go on to that next. Well broken in footwear. Don't go out in footwear that you haven't really used. Walk around the house in them, do some short hikes before you get on a 14er because you don't want to get blisters. So with our essential gear, get a quality day pack. I say 18 to 30 liters, depending upon what you're going to do. But the sweet spot for me is about 28 liters. And one of the things is if you're not an ACA member, there are Osprey packs ranging in size from 24 to 34 liters that you can check out as part of your membership. And you can try them on. And if you decide you like one of them, you might want to end up purchasing one of them. So that's part of that $40 annual membership. Those are at no additional cost to you. So remember that. Hydration system or Nalgene bottles. I'm not a fan of hydration packs with bladders in them. They can be difficult to keep clean. You don't generally get a visual on how much fluid is left. And when you set your pack down, oftentimes the tip ends up in the dirt. So really important to consider that. Not a fan. If you like them, use them, but also be aware that you want to keep that tip out of the dirt. You don't want to be, if you're over in Nepal, the last thing you want is have that thing down in the dirt because there's yak dung everywhere. A map and compass and GPS. So this could be on your phone, realizing that some of the GPS programs that are on phones don't work unless you have cellular service, and you don't always have cellular service in the Colorado mountains. If you have a GPS, make sure you have a spare set of batteries, or you just put new ones in the morning. It's good to carry a spare set, and oftentimes you can download routes and put map your route out that you're going to be on. Some of these mountains, Front Range, you generally don't need them for the standard routes. A map printed off from any one of number of websites will work. A compass, a lot of times, like I said, it's on your phone, so you might not necessarily need a compass. However, if you get into a situation where you've lost visibility, you're in a whiteout, you might want to know the general direction that you actually need to go. Your clothing system that we already talked about, this is another part of your essential gear. And basic survival gear. One piece of basic survival gear that I think that you should have in your pack is a Mylar or space blanket. And they're small. It can go in your first aid kit, because if something happened, if you got injured and you could not get off the mountain and you had to await a rescue, this thing will keep you warm. They're really inexpensive. They're usually single use. You don't need a big heavy tarp. They weigh only a couple ounces, and it could save your life or the life of somebody else to keep them from becoming hypothermic. And they'll also protect you in rain. Pocket knife for a mini tool, a multi-tool, a mini multi-tool, very, very small one, works really well. I keep those little small Leatherman Mikas. I have one in my first aid kit. Works great. In any of them that are pretty decent, don't get the Walmart variety. You want something that's reasonable quality. Sunscreen. Look into the more natural and environmental friendly sunscreens. Reef and Bear are a couple brands that come to mind. Avoid these aerosol sunscreens that you see people spraying all over the place. One, I don't want to inhale it. You don't want to inhale it, and they're just not very good for the environment. And what you can often find is a smaller sunscreen. You don't need the big gigantic tube. You just need a small tube for what you're going out for the day. You might keep the big tube in your car and put it on before you leave. Water purifier or a filter, a life straw or one of these Katadyn bottle filters work really well. However, you need to look at the route to make sure that there's going to be water on the route, because if you look at Bierstadt, there's only water one creek crossing, and then there's a very limited supply of water once you get past that. Same thing with Quandary. Once you get above tree line, there's very little access to water in these areas. So you need to make sure that you carry enough. And then as far as water purifier, the little tablets, you don't need to carry the whole box. It's like cut a couple out of the little sheet of like Aquapure or something like that, stick them in your first aid kit. It's an emergency item, not one that you necessarily want to use. Glacier glasses or ski goggles. Great to have. Ski goggles are good, especially if you know it's going to be a windy day. Glacier glasses, the same thing, especially this time of year when you get out and there's a lot of reflective light, and you get that reflective light up into your eyes. It can be really, really bright. And ski goggles will work well to protect your eyes. So will glacier glasses. But one thing to remember is if there's that much snow, make sure that sunscreen gets under your jaw and on the underside of your nose, because remember, it's bouncing up off the snow and you're getting sunburned where you don't think you're going to get sunburned. So be aware of that when you're out, especially in snowy conditions. Extra food. One thing about extra foods, I carry usually like what I consider a hike and a half's worth of food. You never know. You might get stuck out there longer having to assist somebody, or you might get back to the car and you're starving. And so you dive into your pack and get that. So figure out what you're going to need for the day and then add 50%. So having a little extra food never hurts. Your first aid kit, we mentioned about some of the things that can go in there. The little multi-tool, your Mylar blanket goes great in there. And then if you tend to have blisters, get some Compedes or other blister stuff. Don't use duct tape against your skin. The adhesives on there are really, really not good for you, and I highly advise against it. So moleskin or Compedes work great for blisters. That extra pair of socks works great to have in your pack in case your socks get worn out. And one thing on socks, there's always this debate about whether to wear a liner sock or to wear a single pair. And what I've discovered and what I've heard from other people and found is if you wear 2 pairs of socks, you've got a system in there that causes that liner sock to rub inside. And that can actually cause blisters in and of itself. So make sure you have a first aid kit. If you tend to get blisters, have blister stuff for it. Toilet paper, potty packs, the S kit that you can buy. They're great. You know, have a toilet kit. Make sure that it has some type of packaging in there to so you can dispose of everything properly. Don't leave your toilet paper on the mountain. I hear about, you know, there's some biodegradable ones. Yeah, if you're using a biodegradable one on a long expedition, you got to bury it so it'll biodegrade. Don't leave it on the surface. I hate seeing that out there. And your camera could be on your phone or a nice camera. You just never know when you're going to get a really great shot. So a few things on more gear. A headlamp. So if you're going to start that 45 minutes before sunup, you're going to get to the trailhead, it's dark. You're going to put your headlamp on so you can organize your gear and then get started. And again, you're going to be ahead of the crowd by doing that. A whistle is a nice thing to have. You can get a secondary whistle, but if you look at most of the packs, I know that Osprey and Deuter, REI packs all pretty much come with a whistle on the chest strap. Repair kit. This can be very, very simple. Some people say duct tape. I say no duct tape. Get a little bit of the Kadan ripstop tape. You don't need to take the whole roll. Take a small amount. It'll be great to pack in. You can use get a really heavy duty needle and put this in your first aid kit with, of all things, dental floss. You can sew up anything with that. You can sew up a pack. You can sew up a pair of pants. It's a temporary fix until you get back and can get it prepared, repaired correctly. A lighter's nice to have. I keep mine again. It's in my first aid kit. Get one of the little mini lighters. They're 79 cents at the 7-Eleven. Mentioned the repair tape. A shoelace. A shoelace, not a pair of shoelaces. You just need one shoelace in case it breaks. One of the things that you can do is you can go get take one of your shoelaces out, go to any of the climbing shops, get some 2mm accessory cord, cut to the length of your shoelace. It has a 1 kilonewton breaking strength, and replace your shoelaces with them. Sterling used to actually make shoelaces like that were pre-cut, but it's just as easy to go get the accessory cord. And it's one of the things that I do. The boots that I primarily hike in have basically accessory cord instead of shoelaces. Mentioned the sewing kit, just the heavy duty needle and dental floss, and then trekking poles. So there's always the debate. Do I take trekking poles? No trekking poles. Trekking poles, yes. I take one trekking pole. One of the things that I see, and I see people do this with their ski poles, they walk and they hold them up the entire time with their arms are bent at the elbows at 50 degrees. So they're just engaging their muscles the entire time with the trekking poles in their hands. And I see people do that skiing. And then the other thing that really drives me nuts is they leave the tip protectors on. Those tip protectors are for when your trekking poles are in storage. There's a reason there's a tip on there, so that it'll actually dig into the dirt or the snow rather than the tip protector. So something that you really think about when you're doing it. Hand sanitizer, great little thing to have. A trash bag, this can be an old Ziploc bag. Put your trash in there, your group's trash. And if you see things that can be picked up, and I'm not saying go pick up somebody's toilet paper that they left. That's really nasty. You know, sometimes things just blow around, pick them up and take them out. So if you're an ACA member, you also get a Colorado search and rescue card, a Corsar. Let me talk about this because there's been this misnomer that it is rescue insurance. It is not rescue insurance. What it is a fund that search and rescue organizations can draw from to help reimburse them for the cost of rescues. There's not a lot of money in there. I know of organizations that have had thousands of dollars in rescue expenses, and they get a couple $100 out of this. So be aware of that. That is not going to protect you from that for a rescue. The least expensive way to get true rescue insurance is to join the American Alpine Club. The annual dues are $100, and they offer a rescue benefit of $7,500 for that. Most medical insurance does not cover a helicopter rescue, and it can cost you $3,000 to $5,000 or more if it's a private helicopter rescue to get you out. Yeah, I see somebody putting their card up there. Yeah, exactly. Good job. So rescue insurance, and then your emergency contact information. Put something in your pack, top of your pack, in your wallet, anything that someone can find that has your emergency contact information. In the event, it's like, call this, have your medical insurance information on there. So if you're unable to speak for yourself, you have something that can speak for you. So let's move on to food. Food, everybody loves food. This is just a general rule, 1.5 to 3 liters of fluid. For me, it's usually about 2, depending upon the day. And the problem that I have is I don't drink enough. So one of the things you don't want to do is try new foods, energy drinks, or anything for the first time when you go out to hike. You make that mistake and it could ruin your day, upset your stomach, things like that. Not a good thing. So take the stuff you like. You know, if you like bagels, if you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, take those. Eat before you start. Prehydrate. This is a big topic with me. So if you're driving to the trailhead, have water. Start drinking water. Start drinking, you know, your energy drink, your prehydration drink before you get to the trailhead. Because what's going to happen, you're going to start getting along and you're going to forget to drink. Remember that lunch, I think Jerry Roach might be on here. This comes from him. Lunch starts immediately after breakfast. So, you know, eat every time you stop, take a few bites, remember to drink. Just some ideas, you know, your prepackaged bars and things like that. The same thing that you would use during your normal day-to-day activities. Those are fine. If you know you can tolerate them during the normal day, you should be able to tolerate them on a hike. Some extra energy with goo packs and shot blocks. Again, try them before you go. Sandwich. There has been many times that I'm going to go out the next day and I've gone to King Soopers and just gotten a sandwich and taken it with me, you know, the next day. And it's been fine. And it's great. You know, chocolate, I love chocolate. So chocolate, you can always have chocolate on the mountain. And then the guide's favorite, cold pizza. So go to Bojo's the night before, get some pizza. If you got a group of people, you can go, and then you can just put them in a plastic tub, and cold pizza's great. It's got a lot of carbs and fats and everything else. Yeah, I have somebody go, Snickers bars are the best. Num, 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 yeah. So we've got some hazards to deal with on the mountains, and we want to be aware of these. Altitude sickness, we're going to cover that a little bit more in depth. Avalanches, we're aware of. Colorado is one of the most avalanche states in the country. The potential for falls exists even on class 1 or class 2 mountain. Potential to get lost. Rock fall, you know, it can be from somebody up above you, or an example is we were in the Ouray Ice Park, and all of a sudden all this rock fall is coming down on us from the opposite side of the canyon. a few years ago and looked up. It was like a baby mountain goat up there just kicking rocks off. He was just having a good time. And we were like, geez, who's shelling us? And of course, the wildlife setting off the rock fall. So we don't have a ton of dangerous wildlife, but you don't want to molest them or harass them. And if you have a dog, you definitely want to keep them away from them because you don't know how the wildlife is going to react to the dog or the dog to the wildlife. Weather, changing weather, it can happen very, very quickly in the mountains. The mountains make their own weather. Lightning is not necessarily weather, it's part of weather, but it's a different issue because weather could be just snow and lightning is lightning. Sunburn, take that sunscreen. You're going to get, the air is thinner, the sun is more intense, especially if you have snow on the ground, it's going to be more reflective. And of course, other people on the mountains, sometimes they don't behave properly. So just, be aware of who's around you and what they're doing. And a buddy of mine said this years and years ago when we first started doing some 14ers, the most dangerous part of the climb is the drive to the trailhead. So let's talk about altitude sickness. There are 3 main types of altitude sickness. And high altitude pulmonary edema. It is common to a certain degree in the ski areas of Colorado, especially from people that have ascended from low altitude very quickly. Texas, I'm sorry. And, it requires oxygen and diuretics to be administered by qualified medical personnel. And there's one documented case of fatality in Vail as a result of HAPE. Several years ago, in a book by Dr. Herb Hultgreen, who's probably the world's most renowned expert on altitude acclimatization and altitude illness. And there were some other contributing factors to that. So it has to be really, you get rails, you'll get this sign of raspy sign, you'll bubbling in the lungs, you may see some frothing with somebody that's got it. And if you're in a situation where somebody is starting to show signs of this, if they're still, if they can still move, get them down the mountain, and notify emergency personnel because they are going to need some immediate medical attention. The next one is probably not so common here in Colorado. High altitude cerebral edema. It does have to be treated with drugs by a qualified medical professional. Again, not that often. I have not heard of any cases. It's not very frequently seen below 18,000 feet. It does require medical treatment. It can, they usually put them in a gamma bag, which is a type of hyperbaric chamber will relieve that. So don't really see it. It's not really a risk here, but if you start going over and doing some 6,000 meter peaks in the Himalayas or down in South America, you need to be aware of it. So this one, people laugh and go like, really? I got gas in the mountains. Well, yeah, you just might. And the reason for it is it's just expansion. You're going up, the air's thinner. And so the the gas in your stomach start to expand, just like if you took a balloon with a little bit of air in it and take it from Denver up to the top of a 14er, it's gonna expand. And so it can be pretty uncomfortable. So, if you're familiar with Boyle's law, that's kind of that's the gas expansion law. And, the main thing is, don't eat a big spicy dinner the night before you go. And then, obviously it can be treated with over-the-counter remedies. It's pretty simple to take care of. So the next one, which is the most common one, that you'll even see this in Colorado, is acute mountain sickness, AMS. It's seen a lot in the ski areas. Prevention for it basically is staying hydrated, avoiding alcohol, acclimatizing by hiking to progressively higher altitudes. And there is one scientific study on AMS prevention using ginkgo biloba. It was actually done here in Colorado. If you email me at the end, I'll be happy to send you out a copy. It was published in Outside Magazine, and I kept a copy of it. very simple. Symptoms could be nausea, loss of appetite, headache. Not giving medical advice here, but one of the things that you can do to treat this is aspirin. Aspirin over everything else. Aspirin kind of counteracts some of the effects of what causes AMS. But the other thing that you can do is stay hydrated. So this goes back to your prehydration and continuing to drink while you're actually hiking or climbing. If somebody gets to those really severe symptoms, you've got to get them immediate medical attention and get them down the mountain if you can, get them to oxygen, and then there's drugs that they can use to help treat that. So just be aware of that. Diamox, you may have heard it mentioned. It's a prescription drug and should only be administered by somebody who's qualified to administer it. So weather, really important. 3 rules of weather. Remember those? And then remember the mountains produce their own weather. These are some quick facts that we'll go through. So, here's your list. I only was able to get stats through 2019 on the Colorado injuries, but 99 of those resulted in fatalities. And I believe that there was one more last year. So if that's correct, since 1980, there have been 100 fatalities for lightning injuries in Colorado. And this is 2019, like 3.5 million lightning strikes. You think it's bad here? Go to Texas, over 16 million lightning strikes. About 3 lightning deaths per year, what the average is. And if you hear thunder and a flash within 30 seconds, you are in danger. And also, if your hair's sticking up or if there's buzzing around you, these are signs of St. Elmo's fire, and that is you're in immediate danger. So you want to get below tree line as quickly as possible. It's not a guarantee that the strikes won't hit below tree line. Ditch your trekking poles. I don't see many people with external frame packs anymore, but if you've got an ice axe on there, these are all things that can attract lightning. So one of the things is you do not seek shelter under a rock overhang. It becomes what's known as a spark gap. And there have been deaths as a result of that. And I've got a photo of one of those, not the death, but the result of it. Know about the lightning safety position. We're not going to teach that here. You can find that on the internet. And then there's something called a bolt from the blue. So that is where lightning comes out of the sky and there's no clouds around you. A lightning bolt from a cloud formation, an intense cumulonimbus cloud, can strike up to 25 miles away. So be aware of that. One of the things we also have to be aware of is, just with cloud passages and quick storms, is sudden temperature drops. That happens. This is where your layering system comes in. This is where your rain gear comes in. You might get high winds and you might get stuck in a whiteout. So here you go. Here's our glacier glasses to help protect the eyes, or our ski goggles to protect our eyes. And then become an amateur meteorologist. And what's important with this is there's a couple things. There's NOAA for weather sites, Weather Underground, and the one that I really like the most is one called Mountain Weather Forecasts. And it has 11,300 mountains listed in their database. You can click on, you can search Quandary. You'll find it, you'll click on it, it will give you a 6-day forecast. Now, I always say that forecast is only good till the next day, but it also can give you a forward look to say, hey, do we want to consider doing this, next weekend or this weekend or Friday or whatever, and then check it the night before. Also, if you're familiar with Chris Tomer, who's on Channel 2, follow his mountain weather forecasts that are on Facebook. So become that kind of amateur meteorologist. He does a forecast. And here's a good example of why, how weather changes in Colorado. So this is the cables route on Longs Peak to the right of that photo. That's the top of the diamond coming in. And this picture is 15 minutes later with winds that were up to 65 miles an hour. In fact, one of the guys was really tall and he had a big pack on, and he was walking in front of me, and it went white out for a few seconds and he disappeared because he got blown over by the winds. And if you haven't been aware of it, I think it snowed at my house yesterday. So here you go. Anybody recognize this? Maybe type it in, know where that spot is. Yeah, no one's going to type it in. Come on, send a message. Who is it? Yep, St. Mary's Glacier. Okay. And I get this. Everyone says baby aspirin the night before. That is a great idea. So Fox Mountain, here's your day. August 16th, 2008. I went skiing. So you can get, and it was about 4 inches of fresh, heavy wet snow. I knew it was coming. And so I made took opportunity to go skiing. And we talk about not getting into the spark gap. This accident occurred and she had gotten under a rock overhang, and it basically hit the rock above her and just showered down lightning, and she was killed on the site, which is very, very unfortunate. So we don't want to become victims. And if you ever do Mount Princeton, depending upon if you go by there, you'll see that. So quickly, we want to cover fitness preparation, some of the things you need to be aware of. Trail ratings. So you look at like Bierstadt, Grays and Torreys, Quandary, they're rated class 2. Remember that there are no standard routes on any of the 14ers that are rated over 4th class. There are certainly a lot of 5th class routes on the 13ers and a lot more 5th class routes, on the 14ers, but a lot more 5th class routes on the 13ers. So here you go. Going up is hardest on your lungs and heart. Going down is hardest on your knees and quadriceps. So think about doing some endurance conditioning. That could be long bike rides. It could be, going out and training out at Red Rocks. Going to the gym, doing a Stairmaster, and then, cycling, like I said, running, and then lunges. Why lunges? Lunges, and more lunges. If you think of that motion, that's the motion coming down the mountain. And you want to get back to the car and don't want to feel like you just can't walk because your quads are so loaded up. So by doing lunges, it's one of the most important things that I found, especially for coming down, because you got to remember, it's a round trip. It's not just, give all the gas and then you're dead at the summit and then, oh my gosh, I got to go back down. And then core training. So one of the things that's good about core training is that the stronger your core, the better your balance tends to be. And if you get if something gets out of balance, your core is what can keep you upright. Try all your gear before you go. Lay everything out. Fit your pack, and boots and shoes or boots are most important. I don't do lightweight tennis shoes. I know people that do. My feet won't take it. I usually go in a pair of lightweight hiking boots or some heavy duty trail runners. So lay out your backpack. Think about what things you need first and organize your pack from the bottom to the top. So what things would I least likely need? So probably my first aid kit. Probably my rain gear would be next. And then what things I don't think that I'm going to need, but I want my food, my water close to the top because I want easy access to that. I want that warm jacket close to the top because I want to pull it out. And what I use is like they're really inexpensive. These e-bag packing cubes that you can get sets of them, the small ones. And for your pack, I have a down jacket and a beanie in one. I have all my rain gear is actually rain gear and an extra buff all fit into one of these. So we got lightweight rain gear. So organize that pack and use any kind of stuff sacks that are available. And personally, I use a 26-liter pack. I can do just about everything in Colorado in that 26-liter pack in the summertime. It'll take an ice axe, it'll take all my water, it'll take trekking poles. And in fact, actually, it's almost a little bit big because I've really gotten better at packing gear and purchasing gear. Go for a hike. Just go for a hike. Go hike someplace easy. White Ranch. It's really accessible, and go out for 4 hours. Go in the morning when it's nice and cool in the summer. Then you have the rest of the day to do other stuff. And like I said, eat and drink what you're going to take on your climb. Just stick with the same things. Don't try new things. So going back to your leave no trace, plan and pack well in advance. And okay, it's great to have a cooler in your car with your favorite beverage, or knowing where one of Colorado's many, many microbreweries are nearby. And there's always one somewhere near where you're going to be. So I'll run through a few things here. This is going to be posted. A lot of this stuff is out there. Guidebooks of Colorado 14ers and 13ers by Jerry Roach. Yes, you can buy it on Amazon, but it's the same price when you buy it from ACA, and it's autographed. So there's a bonus there. Dawson's got some good guides to the 14ers, especially if you start thinking about skiing some of them. Some great reference books. I think Freedom of the Hills is pretty much the standard. 14ers.com, Summit Post, CMC, the Colorado Mountain Club, has classes all the way from their wilderness trekking school all the way up to their technical rock climbing schools. Colorado Mountain School, which partners with ACA, is another great resource. They offer members a discount on that. And REI has some classes also. A lot of times you can get some wilderness first aid training through them and other classes through REI. So take advantage. We have a lot of resources like this for training in Colorado. This presentation is going to be available. There's my website, it's kevindonovan.com. I'm actually going to put a link on the first page when I upload it. And if you want to email me directly, I am kevin@kevindonovan.com. Pretty easy to remember. So when you get up there, make sure you got your camera so you can get the hero shot. This is one of my buddies. Notice we got ice axes and trekking poles and Osprey packs. We avoided the main route and took the snow. This is a picture of the Maroon Bells. And I think this is the first selfie I ever took. So I'm about 3/4 of the way up there. This is on the day before, looking back down. And my climbing partner had abandoned, and I drove up from Texas. So I was going to be like, I'm going. And it was an awesome day. And then, the conditions, what you can do in the 14ers, this is actually on the Lost Rat Couloir, which is a snow climb on grays. And this is topping out at the very top. And talk about things, we talk about being prepared for the day. There's an ice axe buried by my left hand. There's another second ice axe in my pack and a snow picket, and we actually had a small road. One of the things you can get with ACA, and this is, it's a $40 membership. It's nothing. And let me just give you an example, is you can rent, if you're an REI co-op member, you can rent an REI Kingdom 4 tent for $40. That's for one night. And you can check one of these out. If you check it out for 2 nights, you're ahead of the game already with with an ACA membership. So if you're not a member, you're local to Colorado, I really encourage you to join. It's a great benefit that not a lot, you don't get any free things from REI for your membership. You might get a discount on stuff, but this is just an example of some of the equipment that's there: stoves, tents, packs, sleeping bags. Chantel, I think so. Can't remember. There's so much gear there. And then, yes, there are. So you can rent, get everything, check it out, not rent for a weekend out. Coming up May 25th, we're going to talk about accidents in the outdoors. We're going to get a little bit more in depth in there. And then also coming up in July, it's a hike with Jerry Roach. I think he's going to do a book. I think Chantel said it's going to have one of the books that he has, not the 14ers or 13ers initiatives or books itself. And I will tell you that I'm going to turn on my video so you can see my mug. There we go. And let me get it up there if I can get it back here. There we go. This is the ancient copy of I'll put it up to my face, of my 14ers guide. This was the Bible. This was like the second edition. And the main page that's here that's of interest is, let me find it in the back. There's pages that I actually cut out of this thing. I would literally take a razor blade and cut some of the pages out so that I could take them with me on the climbs. And I can find it. As I did these, what I did is I highlighted them, each one of them, until I covered all of them. And I actually did the 58 list just to be sure that there was no, that there were no nothing missing from what I was doing. And I guess that page might have even come out of this book because it was highlighted to show that I had actually climbed all of them. But it's a well-worn copy. I actually started out taking the whole book in there, and then I started making copies of the individual pages as we went through it. But yeah, there's the all the yellow marks on the page marking off each one of the 14ers. So he wrote the Bible. It's great. It's a great book to get. I'd highly recommend it. This is the second edition, the older one. The third edition has some updates. And I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is just one of the map sheets. This was for, actually it was out of the 13ers book. It was Gladstone Peak, which was a 13er that I did. So if you're interested, it's on the ACA website. It's on ACA group, and it's an opportunity. I mean, the guy's kind of a legend, and so there's an opportunity for you guys to go climb with that. What book is that? Yeah, 14ers and 13ers, Jerry Roach. Yeah, from Jerry. So you can get it. You can get it through, like I said, you can get it through the ACA website and through the store, and you'll get an autographed copy. So yeah, we're all muted. Everybody's muted. So what I want to do is, if you've got questions at this point, my little buddy here that I found up on Mount Bierstadt one day when I was out, he was hanging out right next to the trail. He said, go ahead and ask questions. And yeah, weather conditions, best weather conditions. So here we go. So weather conditions are going to change day to day. I tell people that one of the best times to go is after the second week in August. Why is that? Well, one, all the schools are back in session, and early September is really good. After Labor Day is really good. Weather tends to be fairly stable. And I would agree with Jerry that that's going to be probably one of the better times, unless you do like I do and you go in the middle of winter and there's only you and your climbing partner. So I totally agree with him on that. Great time of year to go. I used to, yes, that's right. That's the Jerry Roach. I used to take the week off from work when I lived in Fort Worth and drive up here, and that total week I would, that's when I would do a lot of the 14ers. And of course, when I was coming up, I was doing them mostly during the weekdays because I didn't think they were crowded. So other questions that people may have, or I don't know, maybe we should unmute everybody and let them ask. As far as wildlife, what's been your worst encounter? So I'm going to unmute everybody. So give me just a second. I'll let you unmute yourself if you're going to ask. And wildlife encounter, I mean, really, I haven't had any really bad wildlife encounters. I mean, I've seen a few cool things. Was coming down a trail after doing Humboldt, and I was with somebody else. We're walking down, and all of a sudden, this mountain goat comes flying down the trail, and I yelled like, "Run!" And there happened to be this very large boulder there, and I don't boulder, and I think I got up this like 8-foot boulder in 2 moves, and that's probably the worst thing. Yeah, marmots chewing on on car wires. That's a bad one too. There are some areas that that you want to put chicken wire around your car. Bears and mountain lions, not really up in the higher altitudes. If you go to Brainerd Lake and you hike in the dark, the first sign that you see is it says that there's mountain lion activity, and you're thinking to yourself in the dark, they're nocturnal. So, but not very many up at your higher altitudes. Other questions?
I talked to Jerry recently about his encounters with animals, and Jerry, if you can take yourself off mute, it's kind of crazy. The person that climbed the most 14ers, he's never ran into anything that could kill him.
Not wildlife, not in Colorado. California, Wyoming, north, yes, you've got other issues. Bears, in particular. The California bears are very smart. They can take down anything you hang. If they see a bag hanging, they will get it. But that's California, that's not Colorado. Farther north, Montana, northern Wyoming, you need a bear container for your food if you're backpacking. Don't need it if you're day hiking. I've never had a serious bear encounter. I've seen them up close a couple of times in Alaska, but they didn't come after me because I made a lot of noise. Yeah. But no, I've never had a serious encounter in Colorado.
I will mention that you will oftentimes see moose in the willows around Mount Bierstadt. Get your picture with a telephoto. Don't approach them. Don't molest them. This is one of the things is like you don't want a dog that gets loose. It can be a problem. So be really cautious with the moose, especially, early in the season. They're going to be out, and it's lovely to see them from a distance, but don't try to get up closer to take a picture. Same thing with bighorn sheep. Same thing with mountain goats. In fact, but on Quandary, the mountain goats, they'll almost harass you. So just be aware that they can be dangerous, and can be dangerous to dogs. There was actually, I think 2 years ago, on one of the 14ers, someone's dog was gored by a mountain goat and killed. And that's not something you want to have happen to your dog.
Yeah, the goats want your pee. So one of the environmental things you can think about is pee on the rocks, not on the grass. If you pee on the grass, they'll chew up all the grass and dig it up. If you pee on the rocks, they'll lick it, but they're not going to wreck it. Chicago Basin is famous for that problem. A lot of goats there.
I had one, actually, I turned around and I had one with his head inside my tent, a little one.
Ooh.
And it scared the crap out of him.
So Doria, I see your question. I see that you've done Bierstadt. You're asking for a next 14er recommendation. My personal opinion would be doing Sherman. We've taken a bunch of beginners. It's honestly a really short, straightforward hike. You can do it solo without getting lost. So Sherman would be a great one. It's not as popular as Quandary, and the trailhead isn't as crazy. So we'd recommend Sherman. Quandary would be a good one next. And then I've done Mount Huron as well. If you have a 4x4 vehicle, that would be a good one to take up to Huron if you do have that.
I'd agree with that. Sherman tends to be a little bit less crowded. It's still going to be snowing. Still going to be a lot of snow. I see somebody said, is ACA planning on taking groups to do 14ers for beginners? I don't know if we have a plan for that right now, Chantel.
Not necessarily for beginners, but Carolina, we are doing the hike with Jerry Roach at the end of July, and that will be Handy's Peak. Handy's is a straightforward hike. It is going to be longer, but Jerry promised he wouldn't leave me, and it will be my first hike post-surgery. So we're going to be taking it slow and steady during that hike, and it's going to be a pretty big accomplishment for the whole team. So if you are a beginner, I would definitely recommend coming to it. Jerry's going to be doing campfire stories the night before, and we've got a very good solid group going. So I would definitely, try to attend the Handy's hike. It's July 31st. It's 8 miles and 3,000 feet of elevation gain, but we will just, go slow and steady and just stay together as a group and get it done. Noelle, I don't know if you know of her, but she's very popular and she makes amazing cookies. And she's going to be creating these amazing cookies to give out at the summit as part of the contribution to the hike. So I think it's it's 8 miles round trip. And I think it's going to be a great day. It's going to be a little bit long, but we'll all stay together and we're all either, recovering from something or new to 14ers. And we're going with the guy that knows the most about 14ers in the state, and he knows what he's doing. So it'll be a great day.
There's
A
two,
campground for that area, the camp that we're camping the night before. I've camped there before. There's a lot of flat space. There's good parking. I will let you know it's a little over a 5-hour drive down there. So, we're going on a Saturday, so you may want to make sure that you leave early. It is somewhat popular. So I'm going to probably be out of here at dark 30 so I can get down there and set up camp. And so that's something to be aware of. I got a question on this, this RV drive. I haven't driven it lately. I don't know what the condition of that road is. I can tell you that, that you might be able to drive it because that road goes by Lake San Cristobal, and I know that road is RV drivable, but only up to that point. Beyond that, I used a 4-wheel drive, and I can't remember it. Yes, Keith, there is a brewing company in Lake City, so as we're heading out or heading in, and just remember, there's not a lot of services down there. This is an area where that's probably a good call on that. On not, making it up to Grizzly Gulch there. But just remember, there's not a lot of services. There's not very good cell service down there. So when you get into that campground, you're pretty much going to be, pretty isolated out there. So just be aware of that.
And Carolina and Marina, I see that you are both preparing for your first. It's basically going to be my first too. So if you live in Denver or, near, in town, I'm going to start training basically on Monday. So every night after work, I'm going to start doing, North Table Mountain or some type of incline hike. So if you guys want to join me and start training for the 14er, just message me. You can message us at info@alwayschooseadventures.org, and we can start planning like little training hikes.
More questions? Anything about the things that we covered in the presentation that someone would like a little bit more in depth on?
There are 2 trails up Handy's from the Grizzly Gulch trailhead. If you have a 4-wheel drive, you can drive all the way up into American Basin on the other side of the peak and do a much shorter hike. It's about 2,000 feet of gain and 2-something miles one way. I will probably go with Chantel up into American Basin to make it shorter, unless she's in stupendous shape at that point, when we can do the long way.
Nope, we already said we're doing Grizzly Gulch with the whole group, and we're not separating as per Kevin's recommendation. So between now and the end of July, we're all going to go as a group.
Okay.
So I got another couple questions. It's like, is there snow year round on 14ers? There might be. Now, this year, and I'm judging by the Front Range, if you look at like the Loveland ski area, they had about 254 inches of snow, maybe close to 260 now. They're getting a little bit more. So it depends on the season. I have done snow climbs in every month of the year, just because of the amount of accumulation, and also what the temperatures have been like, what the weather has been like. So you might get faster melt off, you might get less melt off. I've started up the back of a 13er in like July, and came around the corner, and there it was snow covered. I was like, wow. Thankfully, I had some crampons with me. So it would depend, on the year. Sarah asked about food and calorie intake. So yeah, I think you're not eating enough. Hopefully you were eating stuff that you can digest. A lot of people like bagels, things like this. They're really dense foods. Nuts are really good. But what you want to do is you want to it's hard to judge each individual, but the best way to do this is get out and do these practice hikes and start, eating and seeing what you tolerate best. Training. Dee's asking about training. It's like gym. I go to the gym. I do legs. I do lunges. I ride a spin bike indoors in the winter. I get out to Red Rocks. That's where this all started. Chantel and I were out there one day. She might have a fireside story to tell, but it was fun because we met out there, and I was just doing stairs and stuff, and I was getting in shape to go out. It's like people are like, what are you getting in shape for? And I go, for tomorrow, because I was hiking and doing, doing 14ers, doing 13ers, doing some trail running, doing some cycling. And so I just used all of these things as training. So I'm kind of cross training. Some days it would just be, I would speed hike. I would put on my lightweight shoes, a lightweight pack, and I would take off and see how fast I could go up either Grays or how fast I could go up Bierstadt, and put my headphones in and just go. Don't talk to people, just go. Or how fast I could, I could do a circuit that I'd laid out in the mountains. So hiking is the best training for hiking. So the more you can do, like I said, you go out to like D, you could go out to White Ranch and just go do some loops out there. And you're going to get some up and down. Use your trekking poles, take your pack, and just train. So I've got Dora's asking about treating injuries while hiking. It depends on what they are. So the typical injuries are foot. So you get blisters. If we get out on a hike sometime, there's a couple things you can do to help mitigate that. One is wool socks versus cotton. Cotton socks get wet, and then they can contribute to blisters. And you can get thinner wool socks for hiking in the summer. And then there's some blister treatments. They're called Compeed is the brand. And also Band-Aid makes another one. What happened was that Band-Aid bought Compeed and then turned it into Band-Aid, and somebody bought the name back, and then they come back out as Compeed. And you can usually find these at Target or Walmart, but there are little blister packs that you can use, especially if that's what you get. As far as what I carry a basic first aid kit. It's got some antiseptic wipes in it. It's got some standard size Band-Aids, some double sized Band-Aids, and a couple Compeeds. If I'm going longer, I have bigger kits, big expedition kits that have a lot more stuff in them. But for a day hike, I usually carry just what I think that I'm going to need. Here you go. There's Chantel putting that up. So really that's what you would need. Need an event at REI to help shop needed items. No, just get them from the gear library. I'm sorry. No, you can get them from REI.
If you want to go shopping at REI soon and you don't feel like you're prepared, just email us at the email address above, and we can coordinate, and I can go to REI with you guys and we can see what's what. And Jerry and I did speak. Jerry's going to go to town on our blogs and give us a bunch of different data from his personal hikes that are not included in his books. So it'll be really, really informative and helpful with everyone. One of the best things that's happened to me in the last couple of years is hiking with Jerry. He's very patient and he goes step by step. And he just kind of describes what's healthy and what's good and like why he does what he does when he hikes. So the handiest hike will be really life-changing for you. Really life-changing for you. And, he will be able to kind of guide your way, and, you'll have more confidence doing other 14ers. So Carolina, my name is Chantel Shoei. So sorry about that.
So Michelle asked a question about brands of hiking boots and shoes, especially for women. I know that Loa is a company that makes women specific boots. So it's one to look into, but I've always told people it's what boots work best for you. I can still buy the same pair of boots that I've been buying for 15 plus years. I can put a brand new pair on and go hike in them that same day without any issues. But you want to try them on. Neptune Mountaineering, Bentgate Mountaineering, and REI. Look at all of those. Brand, there are other brands out there that make women specific boots besides Loa, but I do know that Loa is one that does. I think I'm trying to think of, maybe it's Garmont that makes them also, but I know Loa does.
And if you have really good health insurance, if you have bad feet, I would recommend going to see a podiatrist, and they will do foot inserts for your hiking boots. Life-changing. If you get those, podiatrist foot inserts for your hiking boots, they're transferable and you can put them in all of your hiking boots. Your feet will feel like $1 million. So usually I think without insurance, they're about $500 to $700. My insurance covered them fully, but my first hike with these inserts were life-changing. So look into that too if you have foot problems. So we're about 19 minutes over. Kevin and Jerry, you guys are amazing. Any other questions before we end the call?
I got two questions for people. Jerry and Chantel are excluded from answering either one of these. The first one is in the ACA logo, in the circle, who knows the name of that mountain? Anyone? Anybody typing? It's here in Colorado. And if you read Jerry's book, you'll find a cool story about how it got its name. All right, I'll give it up. It's Mount Sneffels.
One of the prettiest ones I've heard too. I haven't done it. But
Yeah. And then behind me, does anybody know
Yeah,
that location? Jerry, you're not allowed. Anyone know what that location is? Somebody, yeah, you're a little late, Natasha. We already gave it away. So who knows the name of the mountain? No, that's not the name of the mountain. You know, do you actually know the physical name of the structure that's behind me?
Yep.
Nope. Chet, sorry. You don't win the prize. Give it away. No. That's not a pagoda. Actually, I'll go ahead and tell you that is the Rumbuk Monastery in Tibet. It's the world's highest monastery. It's about 15,000 feet above sea level, and that is the north face of Everest. So I took that photo when I was there in 2004.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anybody else? Any other questions?
I think
one comment. I live in Montrose, and from town, we see the Sneffels Range pretty nicely. It's quite white net right now. We just got new snow in this last storm. There's a fair amount of snow on the north faces in the San Juans. However, the San Juans in general only have 85% of normal. So they're under 100. That's overall the whole range. It's a big range.
So Carolina, I'll answer your question. Done some 6,000 meter peaks in Nepal. We're up above the height of base camp, Everest Base Camp. And basically for about the 8 weeks prior, I spent 3 days a week above 13,000 feet. I was hiking, driving up to the mountains, camping up in the mountains. I was acclimatizing, training, hikes, running stairs at Red Rocks, anything that I could do to increase my my cardio, to go up there and getting lots of rest afterwards. Doing a lot, during the week, it's like, yeah, I'm going to bed early, getting extra rest, I'm recovering. And so I felt pretty, last trip, which was to Island Peak, I was really, really super fit going over. So fitness is key. When you go, that's the main thing for doing base camp. And if you haven't signed up for a base camp trip or interested in one, email me, kevin@kevindonovan.com. And I'll be happy to pass on the information. We're not doing any trips this year with Sherpa Mountain Adventures. They're all going to be next year because COVID has exploded again in Nepal, unfortunately, because of a lot of people coming over from India. So hopefully that answers your question.
awesome. Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Jerry. Appreciate all your knowledge. If anyone has any questions, you can email Kevin directly, or you can email us at info@alwayschooseadventures.org. Sounds like a bunch of us will get ready to hike our first 14er, or one of our first 14ers together. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And I appreciate your time and patience.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Be safe.
Good night.
Hang on a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna put myself. Still a few people on, but that went well. I thought I still got some people still hanging out on there.
Let me, hold on.